Unmute to talk.
So, yeah.
Oh, now it's on.
We've already done a little bit of testing the mic levels, so we should be fine without having to go around the room. I guess we're just about ready. We must be almost right on.
So we turn it off now, though.
What I'll do for the sake of our camera.
I screwed up the microphone already. I'll call this regular council meeting of the Village of Grand Manan to order at 7:30 p.m. We have with us for prayer Pastor Michelle Duncan.
Father, thank you for this beautiful day, Lord, and God, thank you for every single person that's represented here, Father. Thank you for each council member. Lord, just guide them in decisions that are on the agenda for today, Father, and thank you also for our mayor as well. God, they're just voices in our community, Father, so I pray that you would just continue to bless them, bless their families, and bless this meeting and our time together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. So I missed the March meeting, but I have to say it's really nice to be back in person and see everybody's face, and hopefully we can continue to meet this way again for a while. So while Zoom does have its purposes, it is nice to be back in person. I think I'd be remiss in not mentioning that it's been a pretty sad week on the island the past week. And I think it's worth mentioning in a public forum that there are a number of services that are available out there. So if anybody is looking for some type of help, reach out to, at this point, I'd say anyone in the community. I think people are just want to help if there is something people can do. I do want to welcome our new CAO to the meeting. It's nice to have the position filled in a permanent position. The letter of offer was signed off on last week, so we can officially say we have done the process, and it's good to have Chris with us here full time. Oh yeah, Chris gets applause. I never get applause at anything I say. The other thing I do have to say is we have a new coroner in place on the island. Tanya Paceras has been appointed to act, which is an important role to have here, particularly since we're a remote community. So, and I'd like to give a shout out to Councillor Boyd, who really led the charge on making sure we get that position filled for us. So with that, I will finish off my opening remarks and move on to number 4, disclosure of conflict of interest.
I have one. I'm trying to find it. 9.1. I think I declared the last 9.1.
And I'll declare for 19.1 and 19.2.
Right. Anyone else? Moving on, number 5 is adoption of the minutes, and there was a new first page of the minutes that everyone should have received when you came in tonight. So we will just replace the one that was circulated previously with this one. And I'll be looking for a motion to approve. There was just a name change on the front page. That was the only difference. You heard the motion by Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Additions to the agenda. I have one under bills to be paid for the general operating fund. It's for practical HR solutions for the CAO hiring, $5,432.60. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? Would anybody like to move to add that to the agenda for me, please?
I'll move to add that to the agenda.
Heard the motion by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councillor Boyd. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. We don't have a member of the RCMP here tonight, so we'll move on to number 9, which is 9.1, land rezoning, tabled for March, Dutchman Contracting. Councillor Russell is leaving. Sorry about that. CAO Rayner to address.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Dutchman rezoning thing has been going on for a couple of months now. We did advertise twice in the local paper. We did have the the public hearing on March 9th. We did not receive any negative impact from either the advertisement or the public hearing. I had a conversation this past week with Councillor Greenlaw, and I think we're in a position this evening to possibly get the first and second reading underway. There was still some question around the public meeting and the advertising. I guess just because you do the bare minimum doesn't always mean that it's a perfect fit. So we discussed the possibility of coming up with a second public hearing, give the public a chance to come in to voice any concerns. And it'll also give us an opportunity to still have enough time, if we do get the first and second reading done this evening, to get any feedback after the public meeting and still have time for the third reading possibly at the next meeting in May. So if Councillor Greenlaw has anything to add to that.
So are we doing that here or that under bylaws under 16? Perfect. Okay.
So before we leave that, I will say, in the procedure, there's the interpretation of who is to set the date for the public hearing. The way it's laid out is the public hearing has to be no sooner than 21 days from your first advertisement and no longer than 30. So staff set the date once we realized when it was going in the paper. We knew exactly when 21 days were. We had the public hearing on a day that the development officer was here. But other interpretations are that it's supposed to be set by council. So this is kind of what we're doing here. This will give council the opportunity to say that they set the date, give more notice for the public hearing, give a chance to get it out on the website to try to reach as many people as we can in case anyone has any concerns. That way there, everything is completely transparent. So.
Very good. Is that it for 9.1, I think? Okay, we need to get Councillor Russell back in because he has the next item on the agenda mostly. All right, moving on to 9.2, Action Ministries Thrifties Expansion. Councillor Greg Russell to speak.
Yeah, there was a presentation at the last council meeting. Some of you were absent from the Thrifties group, or sorry, not the Thrifties, Action Ministries, I guess, with respect to adding a expansion on the back. And did you all get that 2-page package with the sketch? Okay, so we do have a sketch there. After that, Chris and I met with Vivian Fleet and Tammy Brown and was it Mark and Debbie? Mark and Debbie, the people that are going to build. And we had a few questions, and at the end of the meeting, they agreed to have this ready for council tonight for our consideration. They also understand, I think they're looking at reapplying to the provincial government or through the MLA to get some funding from the government, and I assume Rotary is still involved, although I don't know that for sure. But there was, one of the questions I asked, there's no request from the village for funding for the expansion, although they do understand that they are going to finance and build, and when that's done, the village will own, maintain, and insure, and that they were okay with that too. Some of the questions are around what is it going to look like. One of the questions with the roof, they're going to try to match the green metal roof as close as they can, because the other green roof is aged some. The proposal is to put in, it's called chalet board. This is chalet board. On the sides and on the back, or on the water side. I did talk to Debbie tonight. Am I still here? Okay. I did talk to Debbie tonight because I think I've had some concerns that this may not blend in that well with the existing shingles. So I asked Debbie tonight, is it possible to shingle the ends that are visible from the roads, going up and down the island? And apparently now you have to use a premium grade shingle, which is very expensive and very hard to come by. So one thing I threw out to her tonight would be possible to shingle the two small ends and use this on the back, the water side, which is never seen. And she said, yes, that's doable. Apparently there's some yellow mesh or something that they have to put under shingles now to make them work. Have you got some?
Cedar breather.
Cedar breather it's called? Yeah. But she thought that was a viable option I just threw that out at her tonight, and she thought that was a viable option. Again, for the tables, do you want this passed around, or you've seen enough? Okay.
One end of it's garage door anyway.
Yes, you can see that. So there's very little shingling there, very little shingling on the other side, because it's only a 12-foot by however high it is, which isn't very high, so it's not a lot of shingling. But I think it would look a little better maybe than this. It would blend in, and in a few years, it would be a similar, it would be gray, like our shingles go on the island. I don't think Chris, do you have anything to add to that, from our meeting?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. There is a sample of the roofing that they come up with to try to match the existing roof.
Oh, is that there too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's there too?
Yeah.
Is this it?
We buy the projectors, right?
What am I looking at? Oh, right here.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Ah,
There.
apparently they've been up with and done some sort of a match, so.
So are you looking tonight for a motion to support this in principle, or what's the next step that you're looking for?
Yes, I make a motion that we support the expansion, the extension on Castelia Hall, which will will be additional storage for the Thrifties Group and Action Ministries. I make that motion.
You heard the motion from Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Question?
The final design, that board on the back, I would hope that their budget would allow shingling throughout, to make it all the same. Personally, I don't know how that stuff would weather with the winds and the rains and stuff we get on that end of on the other side of the building, you wouldn't worry about it quite as much. So I'm kind of hoping that something can work there, or we can work with them to make that happen possibly. But I mean, until they get a budget and get through that.
Yes. I did ask for a price of shingling versus the chalet board, and I don't have that in front of me right now, but we did ask for that.
I think
And
something we should consider going forward. Hopefully they can make it work.
Yeah. At least if we get the sides. Apparently, if this board is treated, it's supposed to last. That's what I was told by someone that has it installed at their place. And I think that's what they're building their sheds out of now, I think. So you want to,
It used to be red, and people have it all over the place, and now they've turned it into a more of a natural color, and I have it on my shed in my backyard, and I just put some weather, treatment on it, but I've only had it 1 year, so it's hard to say.
I think we're okay, though. I didn't hear Councillor Green say that there was concern with the motion. I think it was just as we move forward, maybe we can look at shingles and we can bring it back here depending on where we end up with the project as we go forward.
when we met with them, we certainly, and I just had a feel for talking to some of you and others that shingling was the preferred solution. And I think from their side, they're concerned about budget and procurement of the shingles. But at least if they got the ends, that would help. But we'll certainly encourage all shingles.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 9.3, Scotia McLeod Investments. Councillor Greg Russell to discuss.
Okay, I'll leave my light on. When we met with Scotia McLeod last year, they come up with a proposal for a committee and a policy to cover our assets, how we handle our assets. I think we can do a little better with our assets now. These are in our funds that we don't use from day to day. And I'll just read, we just got a reply today from Matt McKenna of Scotia McLeod, and this goes in line with what they've recommended in their study earlier. Right now, we're likely not covering inflation where we are. We're in fixed income with all of our assets right now. And their recommendation is to go from 100% fixed income to 60% fixed income and 40% equities. He says, we believe this asset allocation balances the investment risk while allowing the village a greater probability of earning a better long-term rate of return. Of course, it's still up in the air if by next fall, if we're still with Scotia McLeod or Scotia Bank, that's still to be determined. But there is no withdrawal fees for any of our investments. So we could make these moves today, get some better return for even if we decide to move on with another investment team later in the fall. We still have a chance to do some, pick up some better returns on our investment. And if we do decide later to move, there's 0 withdrawal fees, which is a very, very good thing. So I'm going to make a motion that oh, by the way, when they say 40% equities, Scotia McLeod and most of those companies deal with high risk and medium risk. They only will deal with us at a medium risk level. There will be no equities and high risk. So do I make a motion and questions? I make a motion that we that the village contact Scotia McLeod and get our investments put in the portfolios as per their recommendation.
You heard the motion from Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Layton. Question.
I have a question, well, more of a concern. With fixed income, we have no risk of loss, and these are public funds, and I have a concern about making ourselves vulnerable to a loss.
Yes, under their recommendation, 60% is still in fixed income.
Yeah.
40%, and that's true.
I just, I'm not comfortable, I guess, with,
Well, right now, where
Village money
we are, we're
being
not
a-
covering the rate of inflation. We're losing money right now.
I understand
Yeah.
that.
By not doing anything, we're losing money every year.
So would the risk be any higher to have some of it because right now we're losing money, and then if we move some of it, we might lose a little bit, but we'll still have the 60% that's not losing anything, and we'll be keeping up with inflation. Is that what you're saying, Gary?
That's basically what they're saying, yeah. Yeah, at least you'll keep up with inflation.
But the 60% will not be keeping up with inflation, right?
Yep, according to them.
And then 40% we could lose money on and not be keeping up with inflation.
Possibly. If anyone, is anyone in the market, there are no answers. There's no firm answers. Only
No.
looking back.
No.
That's the only good answer, is
It's
looking
just,
back.
I was in the market for
Yeah.
25
Yeah.
years, and if it wasn't public money, I would agree.
What would you suggest?
All I can add is
If
that
it's-
other municipalities are, not that they're all right, but other municipalities are following this model.
Greg, could you ballpark a number on those 60/40 percentage? I mean, we talking just,
I can't now, but I could by next month.
oh, okay, no,
No.
no, okay, I didn't know if we knew that number right off. Okay,
No.
fair enough.
Any other questions? Counselor Boyd?
I wonder if instead of making changes to this current account, if we want to maybe look elsewhere where we may probably will have to go elsewhere before very long. I wonder if we want to look at those options first before we make any adjustments to this account. What's everybody's temperature on that?
Comments?
No, it's certainly a viable option. I mean, there's no wrong answers here.
So we have a motion on the floor. Counselor Turner, you're leaned forward like you have. Okay. Is there any more comments, questions on the motion? Okay. With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? I think we're going to have to raise hands. Contrary minded? So motion defeated. I think I count. Okay. Do we want to talk about Councillor Boyd's suggestion about looking at other options, or should we just table this or put this to the side for a little bit, or send it back to Property and Finance? Greg is looking at me because he was trying to get something off his list.
No, I'm not. I'm open to anything. It's a lot of work to go out to other companies. If we're going to go and we find somewhere where we think we can do better, but they're all dealing with these types of markets, right? They're going to have a different title. It's going to be not Scotia McLeod, it's going to be Brand X and Brand Y, but they all have the same sort of portfolios they deal with. They all have the same, and likely they're all in the, some of them are in the same investments, actually, because mutual funds are so huge with, you know, hundreds and hundreds of companies in them. We can do that. I'm not sure, there's no cost to us to have it with Scotia McLeod. It's not like we're paying a monthly fee or anything. It's strictly, you know, they get a return based on how much money we have in there. And those I have all those numbers too. I don't have them prepared, but we know exactly what they're making. But to me, I don't know, if we're going to go somewhere, let's not go and look, let's go somewhere.
What if we leave it where it is and see where we end up banking-wise come
Yeah.
August?
Well, it's
And then
been
have
that
a
way
look at
for
that.
years, so another few months is not going to make any,
Yep.
you know. I think Scotia McLeod were being nice, saying, look, here's a chance. We talked
Yep.
about it, and that's
That's where
fine.
we
I'm
are.
fine with leaving it where it is for a few months. And if it's with them, then we can actually have him come in and give a talk, so maybe there's some comfort, like, you know, Jane, with what's going on. So I'm fine with
Okay.
all that.
All right. We'll just put this to the side and come back to it at some point down the road. 10-minute open session. I see nobody bolting for the microphone. So we'll move on to 12.1, which is Anglophone South School District letter, sponsor a student, and I'm apparently going to read. So we'll see how good my reading is. It's the St. Stephen Education Center Turnaround Achievement Awards. For several years, Anglophone South School District and the St. Stephen Education Center has been hosting their annual Turnaround Achievement Awards. This evening recognizes middle and high school students from the schools across Charlotte County for making a significant change in their life, either through their academics, attendance, or behavior. It is a great event for educators and families to come together to celebrate the success of our students. This year, the event is being held on Thursday, May 12th at Dominion Hill. As you know, putting on an event for over 100 people can be costly. As an education center, we are tasked to look after our local businesses for support to help pay for this event. We are very fortunate that many local businesses in Charlotte County have agreed to be sponsors of the Turnaround Achievement Awards. We could not put on this event without their support. We have been very fortunate that many mayors from the communities in Charlotte County have attended this ceremony and understand the great gains these students have made in their lives. The organizing committee of the Turnaround Achievement Awards is asking, and this is where I think they have a typo, if the town of St. Stephen would be willing to sponsor a student and 2 guests to attend the event this year. Graham Manan Community School. Graham Manan Community School will be recognizing 2 students for this award, one from the high school and one from the middle level. The cost per student is approximately $200 once you factor in the cost of the meals, their rewards, and other miscellaneous expenses. Having this expense covered would allow other monies to be used to ensure we could provide our students and their families an evening they will fondly remember. I thank you in advance for your consideration in this matter. I look forward to hearing from you at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Jennifer Grant. So is this something we want to consider sponsoring? A student from middle school and a student from the high school level?
Can we sponsor that much? For
I'm-
each, though?
I'm wondering if we did 200 for middle school and 200 for high school, it would still fall
separate.
with, if it was separate. And maybe we need to make a motion, 2 separate motions just to cover it? Does that seem, okay? So I'm looking for a motion to start.
I would move that we sponsor a child from the middle school for this Turnaround Achievement Award for the amount of $200.
You heard the motion from Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder? Question? All those in favor?
Oh, I have a question.
Question, yeah.
Where it's an overnight, this is an evening event, is $200 sufficient for a family and a student from Graham and Ann to go to St. Stephen overnight? Or is the rest of it, we'll pay up to 200 and someone else pays the rest, either the family or somebody? Because I could see if it was in St. Andrews or somewhere, they're all home that night, but not from Graham and Ann.
They said that they wanted the $200 to factor in the meal and the award and other miscellaneous expenses. So maybe they're covering the rest of it. We could be billeted, I don't know.
Well, you're not going to bill it a family likely.
No.
See how Rayner, I think, has,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can speak personally on this. One of my children, when they were in high school, actually received this award. And my wife and I attended, along with many other families from Charlotte County, and each teacher had the opportunity to take the student up in front of everyone else, which caused quite a lot of fear, but you could see from the smile on their faces, just being recognized for all the hard work that they had put in, went a long ways. I must say that's something that's still talked about many years later around our house. And St. Stephen does realize that Graham and Ann is attending, and we were able to go up on the 3 o'clock boat and make it home on the late boat. So,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
any other question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Do we have a second motion for high school?
I make that motion.
Heard the motion from Councillor Russell. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. It's been a while since we've been able to do something to support students at the school, so it's kind of nice to have those requests coming in again. We don't have anything under correspondence, so 14.1 is the Ukrainian relief effort, and that was tabled for March, and I think I'm speaking to that. Basically, I think a lot of you have probably seen that there is a group that's organized to sponsor a refugee family to come to Grand Manan from Ukraine. They're still working on getting themselves established, but it's obviously a significant cost, and they have to have the funds to sponsor, to cover expenses for a full year, which is in the neighborhood, my understanding is around $50,000 to cover off the year. I was approached to put it on the agenda to see if it's something the village would be interested in contributing to, and so I don't have a lot of other details other than that. I just know that they're getting close to having a family ready to come, but I put it out there to see if there is any interest in supporting this. Questions or comments?
Did you say this is a group effort, or is this just solely on the village?
No, it's a group effort. I think it's being led out of the Anglican Church, and then they have other groups that have sort of come along and are participating as well. But they have an organizing committee that they are working with and are starting to collect funds.
So I suppose there's a timeline. Can we get a little bit more information and what their full ask would be, or if they're just looking for a whatever you can give sort of situation?
My understanding when I talked to him last month was whatever we can give, but I can certainly, ask if there's more information. We can table it for another month, so.
Sure.
For sure. As I said, I think they're just starting to get their feet under them, so I think another month they'll have a bit more information about what they're doing. Councillor Turner?
If they can wait, I would love to hear them speak on it, like what
Yeah.
exactly they have planned for this family. I have no problem with it. I think it's a great concept, but I'd just like to hear what they're putting together, and because we may find other ways to contribute to making this an easier
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
too.
For sure.
So-
Okay, so sounds good. We will table that for another month and see if we can have somebody come speak. 14.2, Dark Harbor signage. Councillor Russell.
Yes, as we know, we own Dark Harbor, we, the village, own Dark Harbor. And at the present time, we have a lease with an individual, and Jeff Foster. But we've also had reports that people other than Jeff have been in there fishing over the last few years. I guess what I'm suggesting is we should have signage up basically saying no commercial fishing unless authorized by the village of Grand Manan. Violators will be prosecuted, whatever standard wording is. But I think we need signs at two places, one near the wharf where you go down, and if there's a way to get one at the outlet. And we likely should also communicate through the local fishery group that Dark Harbor has been posted. The people that have allegedly been fishing there, we have received $0 from them. So I think we've got to make it clear that it is closed to commercial fishing unless it's by leaseholder.
Questions or comments?
There's a big yellow sign out there now that specifically says that the village owns it and no commercial fishing. It's
It
a big
says that
sign.
now?
Big sign, yep, yep. And signage out there, I mean, Cook's Agriculture just had a big interactive sign out there saying what's going on in the pond. Well, that's disappeared, it's gone. I don't know why they left the village's sign there, but there's Cook's is gone. But I mean, if we put a sign way over there out of sight, it's just gonna go out of sight. But I think management of the pond should probably be right on Chris's desk, and like as far as policing it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like a sign's not gonna do that, but word of mouth will, and the buck stops with Chris, I'd expect.
Councillor Boyd, you'd lean forward like you had a comment.
I was just gonna ask if are we talking other, like, obviously other people aren't setting up wares in there other than Jeff, and Cooks is in there, so is this just a matter of a few people dropping traps in there once in a while, or I'm just wondering what the I
It's
guess what the
commercial
concern
fishing.
is.
There's commercial fishing going on there,
Right,
and that's not in the agreement, I don't believe, but.
okay. No, I was curious. I don't spend much time in Dark Harbor, and I just catching up, I
Is
guess.
that
Yeah.
a matter of DFO taking a drive out every now and then or something, or? Because I know the sign George is talking
Yeah.
about there. There is a sign there.
Is it where it's visible, everyone can see it? Is it? I wasn't even aware, but I haven't been out there for so
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
What about in the outlet? Boats come in the outlet, they can't see a
I
sign.
don't think you can keep anything
You
out there
couldn't.
right now. It's all,
You
it's all,
couldn't,
it's quite closed in right now. And
Yeah,
it's gotta be
it's,
dredged.
you can't get in Dark Harbor right now.
Yeah,
It's-
it's gotta be dredged out there.
Once it's dredged, you might see somebody go in there, maybe,
Yeah.
but, I mean,
Maybe we should put a reminder out to through the Fishermen's Association that it is closed for commercial fishing. I don't know. All I know is people
If
have
that's
been
something
fishing
they
there, we get nothing
do.
out of it, and we should do something about it.
Yep.
That could be done
Yep.
through the village Facebook page as well, just a reminder.
Yeah,
I think the issue has just never been addressed or enforced until this moment here.
right.
So going forward, we could probably manage it, police it a little bit better.
Yeah.
does DFO have jurisdiction over that where it belongs to us and not to the federal government?
They would not enforce the property right issue of it, because as far as they would be concerned, it's part of LFA 38, and anybody can fish anywhere within that district. So then it becomes
Yes.
a property issue for us.
Yes, I talked to fishery officers about enforcement, and they said unless they're basically breaking the law, they don't care who fishes in there. That's up to us to look after our asset. So I think it's time we started looking after our asset.
So what if we, as per Councillor Greenlaw's suggestion, we put a reminder up on our Facebook page, and we'll leave it with the CAO to ensure that we are monitoring this
Yeah.
going forward? Okay?
Can I ask though, how would it be enforced if someone, like, who would enforce?
It's a good question.
Jody,
Would that be the RCMP that would? If it's a property.
It's a property, it would be RCMP.
Property,
Yeah.
So they would be the ones that maybe could make a run through there every
You
now
want
and
to be
then,
deputy
just drive
dog?
down.
question to Councillor Lane. Does the sign say violators will be prosecuted? Because I think if it doesn't say that, the sign is just a nice tourist sign. You
No,
got
no,
this-
it's well worded.
Is it?
But I sent the picture to Chris, but I
Okay.
can't remember the wording, but it was
Yeah,
done professionally.
there's some
yeah.
legalese in
Yeah,
it, is there?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, well, why don't we leave this
Okay.
with the CAO, and we can go from there?
Yep.
Is that fair? All right. 14.3, Southern Head filling potholes. Councillor Greg Russell to speak.
I was approached by a resident last fall, for any of you that go to Southern Head, and to check out, the States and our lighthouse offshore, there's huge potholes, or huge puddles down there now. I don't think Department of Transport or the federal government, whoever owns that now, has much interest in it. And I've asked Chris if the village could go in, get Dutchman to go in with a load of stuff and flatten it out and fill it up. It's just kind of a big mess down there, and it's a very popular tourist place. It wouldn't cost very much money, and I'd make a motion that we get our Chris to get it fixed.
You heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Question? I think CAO Rayner's leaning forward like he's got something to say, or Councillor Layton's got his hand up. Not sure. Where do we want to
There's
go?
a few questions here.
I don't know, we're going to be talking about this a little bit later on, but I understand the need, I understand the passion of fixing their stuff up, but the end of the road stops at the end of the road down there, and the property is owned by DFO. I understand we should fix it up, but if we do that, we're going to fix up Mill Hill too. We're going to have to we're going to set a precedence at fixing up other people's property than our own. But I would like to bring this a little deeper and maybe petition DFO and take ownership of that property, or at least get an easement so we can make it a parking lot, have a viewing deck, and make it a better experience, right? But I think we gotta go to the extra step instead of just dumping a load there on somebody else's property, but we might be able to get this property for nothing and make it a destination. It isn't much of a destination. I was just standing there the other day, and it's terrible. It's dangerous. But, I mean, we're all on the same page. I think it's great. It's great for tourism, but I don't know if that would need a motion or how we could go about that, but it would tie into our roads. We're going to get some more road work done, and that would be nice if that was chip sealed and a roundabout and progress. So.
Who is next on my list of commenters? Councillor Green?
I had a conversation on the week. Hey, I turned it on. I'm remembering. Well, I'll mention names. We're a small group. Kenny Ingersoll, he works quite closely with those folks down there, and he said they were here, I believe he said last week, and they looked at that, the DFO people, and said something has to happen there. Yep, sure does. And it's gone back. He gave me a couple names and numbers, which I passed on to the CAO to say, okay, yeah, we encourage you to do that and get it done by, tourism season type thing. Chris made some phone calls this afternoon, and it's over to you, Chris.
So yeah, I reached out to the contacts that Councillor Green had given me, and at DFO, and they've put me on to Public Works. So anyway, we'll work with them to hopefully arrange something that maybe they could, I think someone mentioned that the DFO or Public Works had so much money that they're trying to look for places to put it. So maybe we'll work with them to see if they'll fix up their asset first, and if it doesn't work out, maybe we'll come back to this table and see if we can find a different solution. But we'll exhaust all those options first before we put any of our money into their property.
Councillor Russell, you have a motion on the floor. I think you were able to withdraw it at this point, if that's
I would like to withdraw that motion, certainly.
Is that acceptable to the seconder? Yeah. Okay, so we will withdraw that motion. 14.4, Scotiabank enhancements. Councillor Greg Russell. We're going to have to talk about the number of things you can put on the agenda again.
I don't know how they get on there. Must have been when I was away, I guess. Again, we met with Scotiabank last year, and again, the Scotiabank, who our banker will be in the fall, is up in the air. I think this would be a good time to approach Scotiabank to see if they have any incentives or anything they would like to offer the village that we stay with Scotiabank in the future. I heard a story about another entity on the island that had some success with a similar discussion. So I think we should approach them and see what they're doing. As you know, I'm not happy with the fees we're paying them and many, many other things with Scotiabank around dollars, not people, it's dollars. I think we're paying exorbitant for the money we have in their accounts, in our accounts there. We're paying huge fees, which I think this was a good time to go and talk to them and see what they're willing to do. But that won't even guarantee that we stay with them. We may end up somewhere else. But I think we should go talk and see what they have to say. So I make that motion that the village approach Scotiabank to discuss incentives with respect to our accounts.
You heard the motion from Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
Sure.
Seconded by Councillor Green. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Committee reports. 15.1 Recreation Director's Report. Recreation Director Chris Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to be, I guess, somewhat out of COVID. I guess we're not out of COVID, but it's great to be able to use the facilities once again. Once the restrictions were lifted, we pulled Tanisha from the kind of the fitness center role where they were having to monitor and disinfect with that. So we've actually put her back into her programming role, which is good. So I just kind of wanted to touch a little bit on that. Right now, she has her weekly clubs, which is her Lego club as well as her craft club. Some other things that she's got on the go. On May the 7th, she has a women's self-defense class. There's a lady coming to the island that night to offer that class. On April the 8th, she has a seniors lunch booked. She has a couple teen nights for the month of April, one on the 11th and the other one on the 25th. And one of the other big things that she's been working on is kind of the traditional Easter egg hunt that used to be put on by the BGC. Tanisha has taken upon herself this year to try to do something, and maybe Esme and Alyssa can help me out here. What she said that she was looking for 500 pounds of egg. Like it was huge. The number of the little foil wrapped eggs that they're going to litter all over everywhere for the kids.
I'm not sure how much. Cindy gave her a number of
I
what they
thought
got,
Cindy
but-
said 1,000 foil eggs.
1,000 eggs.
I think so.
But it's been a great, as usual, the community has been very supportive. On a daily basis, Tanisha comes down the hall with 3 or 4 10-pound bags of chocolate foiled eggs. And if anyone has a chocolate fix, they're head out there in the locked closet. But so that'll be a great event. That's going to be up at Victoria Park this time. She's got a couple places isolated. I think she's going to try to isolate the younger kids. There's an age, I'm not sure what the age is. On the playground, and the older kids, they're going to kind of run loose around the ball field. So as far as facilities go, we turned the machine off for the ice for the arena this morning. They were in to read the meter. I think there was one last group hoping to play tonight. I'm not sure if they actually got enough.
No, they didn't.
They didn't get enough. Anyway, they tried. It's been one of those years, I guess, with COVID. Everyone's been kind of off on their schedule, but hopefully next year. So we're working on the piece of equipment that we're looking to get installed this year up at the North End Park. Last year we installed a new piece in Grand Harbor, so we try to put a new piece in at our different locations every year to make it look like there's some new life at all the playgrounds. We've also got an improvement to make in Seal Cove at the new park from last year. When we bought the equipment, we bought the Seaside special equipment that was supposed to be galvanized. Come to find out, the manufacturer, on their own merit, contacted us and said, oops, we're sorry, but the swing set that we installed wasn't galvanized. So they are paying for the contractors to come back to take out the swing set and install the new one, but they're also going to leave us or give us the swing set that they're taking out, which is brand new, and we're going to install that in Grand Harbor. So we had some complaints this year with the Seal Cove ball field. There's a number of local residents, I think, that use that ball field as a kind of a walking track. They walk around the Warner track on the outside edge. And there was a couple of different people stopped in and said, have you been to Seal Cove lately? I said, we haven't been to Seal Cove since we shut the ball field down at the end of the high school ball season. She said, well, if you got a chance, it'd be worth running down. I said, well, what's the problem? It's being used as a dog park, which we've known people have used that in the past. It's a great chance for you to put your dogs in, let them run. They can't get away. But where the problem lies is when people don't clean up after their animals. It hasn't been a problem in the past, but unfortunately this year it's been a huge problem. So we had no choice, but we had to lock the gates. So hopefully next year we'll be able to unlock them in the off season to let people use that for their dogs, and we won't have any issues. But I will say that, I mean, unofficially we do have an unofficial dog park up at the northern end of the island that people are free to use, but again, it's all about cleaning up after your animals. We've started taking the summer equipment up for service. Like every year we take the lawnmowers, the tractors, and all that stuff up for its annual service before the season starts. So we're in the process of doing that. I think the last thing on their list to get ready is they'll start putting the trash barrels out to all the different locations to get ready for when the trash tender starts at the 1st of May. Before I sign out, I guess it wouldn't be appropriate to end off without recognizing all the kids this year with hockey and all their success. We had 3 teams playing this year. We had an under-13 co-ed team, which done very well. They finished into a position where they got to their semifinals. We had our all-female team this year, first year ever, was at their provincials, had a great time. And our under-18 team. Our under-18 team was very successful. They won their semifinal and their final in their appropriate league play, which gave them the right to go to compete against all the other U18 teams in the province, which they did attend, and they were undefeated and brought home the very first provincial banner.
Very nice.
Congratulations. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, last year, I remember us being caught late about high school baseball. I know it's kind of early, but do we have any indication if they may have a team this year and if we should, get ready for them a bit earlier?
I am hearing rumblings that the men may try to do something this season, which would be fantastic, because then it gives us a reason to be down there on a weekly basis to maintain the field. So it's hard to leave that. It's hard to get down there and maintain on a weekly basis if it's not getting used, because it's expense. But it's also hard to leave it and go down there in September after it's been left all summer to try to get it ready. So we are hearing some rumblings that the men may try to play, even if it's one day a week, would be a huge benefit. But I have to apologize. I can't finish my report yet because I forgot one big important thing. Yeah. The pool. It's been so long without it, I forgot it. So in your package, you have the official draft design from Trace Plan. I can't speak a lot about it because I've been playing phone tag with the engineers on this, but I will say that he's on the ferry headed here right now, and I'm going to meet him here at 8:30 in the morning. So I'll be able to have some more answers to any questions you might have, but I think it's a really good start. I mean, it looks good. I mean anything looks good compared to what's sitting up there right now, but.
So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2 in the last page there. Do you know what phase 1 and phase 2 is?
I believe phase 1 is everything except for the actual splash pad features. They have to install the recirc equipment and all the plumbing and the deck for the splash pad, but they don't have to install the features.
Okay. Have we talked to that other group that was interested in the splash pad?
We have. I shared a little bit of this with that group, with Emma and that group, and just to let them know what's going on, and I told them I would reach out to them again once I had a better idea of what we had. And then maybe once we go back if we go back to the drawing board, we may be able to go back with them if this is something that group still feels very passionate about fundraising. If the splash pad, obviously this splash pad and the splash pad that they presented is black and white. So if they want to put some extra bling in the splash pad, that maybe that group is still willing to do that. Absolutely.
Councillor Russell?
Yeah, I had a chat with one of our residents that had some concerns about this design, and I asked them to put it in writing to me, which they did, and I'd like to read it. The main concern that I have, that I would like to put forward regarding the swimming pool design, is that we will likely not be looking at this again for a very long time. The design is a great start, but I believe there could be and should be more. There are other groups willing to invest in the project as well that we have not collaborated with. The Splash Pad Committee President has expressed interest in fundraising for a larger scale splash pad to add to the current design instead of working on their own design. Grants have been looked into and are looking promising. A specific grant called Inclusive Community Recreation Infrastructure Fund opened up on April 1st, and we meet the required criteria to be considered, as well as a few others that can be looked into further. Looking upon other municipalities with municipal pools, it seems they are coming up with easy designs with a few extras to accommodate the whole community. A concern is the space available considering the user groups, which include the BGC, many Gramanan families, a recreation programmer, sports meets, senior swims, aqua aerobics, swimming lessons, etc. A suggestion would be to speak with Trace Plan and Design to receive a quote on adding a large water slide, expanding the splash pad, and any other possible expansion ideas that may be feasible for our community and staff if the funding was available. I'm confident that the funding would not be the issue and that we have a bit more for the community that has been unavailable for 2 years now. I think those are good points to consider as we move forward with the pool.
I'm going to suggest that we pass those comments on to the CAO/rec director, hear back after he meets with Trace tomorrow and the next day or so, and maybe we'll have a bit better idea what their concept is and have more to go on once we have that information. Is that reasonable? Yes. Okay. Very good. Anything else under the rec director's report? Very good. 15.2, Transportation Committee report, Councillor Layton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to be a little free birding it tonight. I'm trying to get rid of the written speech thing, so we'll just see how I make out with this. If anybody has any questions or comments or corrections, please, Bonnie, jump in. We had a meeting with Minister Green last week with our committee and many people from DTI. Bonnie was the great leader of the meeting. She pulled off a great meeting. It was very productive, and I'm privileged to have her in the room when she's speaking because she knows her stuff. So I'm just going to go over a few of points that we discussed, and the main priority for that meeting we started out was the replacement of the Gramanan 5. She was, I think, kind of surprised and took her off a little sideways that that isn't on her radar, was not on the DTI's radar for replacement. So she's going to talk to her people and get back to us as to where we start that conversation, but she's excited to start it and start the process of budgeting money and looking forward to replacement ferry. Is there any questions about that? Comments?
I think they were pleased we didn't wait till it was time to replace the ferry, but that we brought it up 10 years or so out to give them time to plan for it. So that was,
We're right at the sweet spot right now where we need to make decisions. We need to move this forward. So in 10 years, we'll have a ferry that's going to last us 30 years from 10 years from now, if you understand what I mean, right? It's a long process, but okay. So the second topic was the shoulder seasons. As we all know, both ships are busy for the couple of months in the summer. But now that our economy grows, I mean, we were talking about this, I think every 4 years, the Gramanan contributes over $1 billion in economic value to the province. So, I mean, those numbers sort of made everybody kind of, wow, that we're a have village. We're not, we carry our weight, we pay our, what I mean? Like the province makes money off us, so we're not a liability. So we're looking at, as the economy grows, we need to get more trips on each end of the summer schedule, and she's open to that. She's going to meet with Ian and a couple of members of CTI and go over the trips and the figures, and if there's room, I don't know, maybe we'll get something out of that, and maybe we won't, but the conversation's been started about that. So is there any questions about that part of it? Okay, down to dangerous goods. I hope I never bring this up again, but it's over, it's behind us. We've made the deal with the province. It's going to be every 4 weeks. In the summer, it's every 2 weeks. It should almost eliminate our issues with propane and shortage of Supreme gas at the pumps. So we're going to run that till the end of this year. we'll look at it again with TTI to see how it worked, see if we can make any improvements then, but until then, we're good to go till the end of the year with dangerous goods. So, the next little step then, let's talk about the Road to Recovery plan that the province just brought out. It's a $1.13 billion 3-year plan, and we are in it a little bit. Not like we'd like to see, but I mean, we're kind of off the radar. We're off on Grand Manan. We're not even part of the province, I don't think. Sometimes I wonder, right? But we have their attention, and we brought our concerns to the minister, and she's eager to work with us, to sit down with us, and get some action going. This year, 2022 and 23, we're going to do 50 kilometers of bush cutting and drainage issues. In the next year, we're going to be doing all the side roads. All the chip seal roads that are on Grand Manan will be ditched, bushed, and preparation for upgrades down the road. Where we are with that, I don't know, but the very first place that we start is ditch draining and bush cutting. So the province is also, we're going to be taking care of that part of it too with the province. We'll be putting out tenders. We'll be overseeing that project. We'll send the bill to the province, and the province will reimburse us. So it's going to be a little bit of a change game about how we do things, but I think it's a positive way that we need to control what's going on, I guess. So with that, in that $1.13 billion, there's improvement to, as well, in 2023 is improvements to the ferry wharf in North Head, and upgrades to the Engels Head wharf as well, where the ferry docks. Both of those are provincial assets. So, but they need some work. So, but that's where we are within that 3-year plan. But we're not out of the plan. We've got another meeting, an important meeting with DTI coming up this next month, which is going to share a lot of information about how things are going to move forward. So, am I missing anything there as far as part of that?
Didn't she say, though, that they had other plans for us that weren't documented in there, but
I think
projects they had in mind for us?
Depending on once they do the drainage, the bush cutting, all of those things will give them a better idea of what sort of maintenance projects may need to be done. And so based on that, then they'll make a plan from there, is my understanding.
Yep.
But the roads are
Yep.
not my strong suit at all.
Yep. So we'll move down here, and here's another little different one here, but our road maintenance. We've been talking about this, our committee has, like ever since it basically started, about a public works department. At the end of this year, our current highway supervisor is going to retire, and the province is going to put that out to a third party. So from history has told us, though, it shows us when we lose a service, it's gone. We don't ever get it back on Grand Manan. So we need to be in front of this, and we have an opportunity to make an agreement with the province to take over the maintenance of the roads that would be beneficial to both the village and the province. It's a big conversation, and we're going to start that conversation in our next meeting. But I think it's our road ahead, our plan forward, I think, is to make a public works department. There's a lot of, in our community, there's our mowing, there's a lot of things that we could bring in under the umbrella of a public works department. So, I mean, it's not something I'm saying that we're going to do, but we're definitely going to look at that possibility. I'd hate to see somebody in Caracat looking at his app saying, well, we should put a little salt on, the hill down Dythers Hill, you know what I mean? We want to keep that control on Grand Manan, and it needs to be managed from Grand Manan. And if the village Grand Manan can manage it and take it on and be beneficial to us, I think that's what we should do. And that's about it. But anybody else have anything? Bonnie was there. I mean, anybody from the committee bring?
Yeah, Councillor Layton covered it all pretty well. I was actually quite surprised at the contingent of people that were on the call from DTI, and how positive a lot of it went. Because you're never really sure. But between our mayor and our MLA, Sanderson Mason, they had to hold the minister to the coals there a couple times to get some answers. So in cases like that, the rest of us just sit back and watch them go. But yeah, I think Councillor Layton's 100% right. We lose the service, we don't get it back. We never do. And we need to be able to control what happens on our roads and our highways here. So hopefully, I mean, it's just a tip of the iceberg conversation so far, but it was pretty clear from that meeting that when Dennis is done, they want to go a different direction. So
Yep.
I guess, I think it's a good thing for us to get these conversations going now.
Yeah. We're looking forward to the opportunity to take it on.
I think another key point is that we've received a copy of the contract that we have with the province about the split on, other than Highway 776 in Ingalls Head, but we didn't receive the appendices that have a lot of the details in it, and they did commit to getting all of that to us, the entire contract, which is pretty crucial going forward, because how would we know what we would lose or win if we took it over, if we don't know where we're at now? So they did agree to get that to us.
We've been struggling to get that agreement, I think, since we first started here. And it looked to me like the guy had it on his desk. Well, what do you want to know? What's part of this? So I don't know if he did or not, but it looks suspicious to me. Hopefully we'll have that soon.
We've actually officially put in a request for an RTI for information, because they wouldn't give it to us. We kept asking for it, and finally, the day of the meeting, the mayor signed the request to give the MLA the right to proceed to get that information. So, and one other thing I will bring up about the dangerous goods, even though Councilor Layton said we weren't going to talk about it again. So the official first date for the new dangerous goods crossing is May the 7th. Right now, everybody thinks it's May the 14th. So we need to make sure we try to help get this information out so Irvin Oil doesn't show up a week late, and we've completely undone all the work that Councilor Layton's tried to do to get this fuel shortage done. So May the 7th is the first official date, and then it's every 4 weeks from then. So we have May the 7th, June the 4th, July the 2nd, and then it starts every 2 weeks because the summer ferry is on. So just maybe that's something we can put on the website or Facebook and just try to share it and let people know as much as we can so everyone knows.
Yeah, I don't want to use up our new alert system, but I mean, if we did this every, like the Wednesday before of dangerous goods, just put it out there, because I've traveled before and, oh, I'm staying the night because, so.
We've put it on there before, haven't we?
We have. We can put one out now, just information saying, please be aware that the dangerous goods crossing schedule has officially changed. The new date for the crossing in May is May the 7th. And then once we get closer, we'll send out another reminder, just let people know.
Good.
Do you think there's any possibility Coastal would put it on their website, the schedule?
They're doing it.
Because, are they? Okay. But I mean on the actual website, like, so that, yeah, so that if you made a booking, it would say this is a dangerous goods.
They usually have that in red, yeah.
Do they?
Okay. It says call ticket office. I just booked one 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I had to call the office.
Okay.
They told you, you don't need to call 24 hours.
I guess I never booked.
I know Greg and Brian have both been involved in this right from the start, and they're completely on board with it, so I assume that they'll let their people know and they'll update the website with the new dates. But we can certainly reach out to them just to make sure that nothing is missed.
Any other questions on the Transportation Committee report? Hearing none, we'll move on to 16.1, which is bylaws. Proposed bylaw amendments tabled from March for review, bylaws 5422 and 5522. And I'm going to turn that over to CAO Rayner to address.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the confusion with these two bylaws came with the question of why our Planning Advisory Committee reviewed these bylaws. I'll be the first to admit that that was my mistake. I took some false information, and we've since learned that the PAC does not need to review any bylaws that's not associated with land use planning. It was also said that most municipalities, as a rule of thumb, puts these bylaws onto their PAC, because all that does is just gives another set of eyes from an independent group to go over to review to see if there's any mistakes. And at the end of the day, it's just a recommendation, and those recommendations can be taken or they can be completely ignored. So I think that was pretty much the only issue there, was the confusion on the PAC. But we do have a tabled motion, so we will need a motion to untable that before we can proceed with it.
So do I have a motion to untable the motion?
I will make that motion. Table the motion.
You heard the motion by Councillor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. So, I think,
Am I doing the third reading of those ones, or is that the next meeting?
was that what the motion was that was tabled? Or we have to wait till the next meeting?
You have to vote on the table.
Okay, so now we have on the table, wow, I'm going to need a flow chart to follow these minutes. So there is a motion on the table, moved by Councillor Greenlaw, seconded by Councillor Layton, to accept the adjustments from the recommendations of the PAC and submit to the Courier. Does everybody understand the motion on the floor? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, question, I forgot that part.
We don't necessarily need to submit to the Courier for these particular bylaws?
That is correct. Because both those bylaws were read in their entirety on the second reading, they do not require to be submitted to the paper.
Would you like to amend the motion?
I would like to amend the motion to that effect.
Councillor Layton, are you okay with that amendment? Okay. Any other questions on the motion?
What's the amended motion?
That, I believe it is that we remove the final 5 words and submit to the Courier?
That's correct.
So it would end after PAC. Any other questions?
So you still want, so we've got to address the PAC's concerns then? Sorry. So we have to address the PAC's concerns then, is that what we're saying?
In this case, I think we're going to address the concerns, but going forward, the bylaw committee is going to be working with the CAO to set up a more clear procedure on how we approach the bylaws and how they're reviewed.
I guess I should have read what they recommend, what they were talking about closer. I was just looking through my paperwork to get how we address their concerns.
It was two recommendations. One was the wording, or the definition of mandate, and the other one was the definition of recreation in those two bylaws.
Any other questions? All those, yep.
So those have been defined, they're in the bylaw, and I missed it when I read through it now.
They haven't been reworded into the bylaw yet, but we have the time between now and
The next,
the next.
oh, so we're not reading those a third time tonight. Okay, sorry. I skipped a gear.
All of this. Motions upon motion.
Councillor Russell,
If we entertain PAC's on 2 words, do we have to go back to reading 1 and 2, or do we go right to 3?
it does not change the intent of the bylaws, so it's just the wording, and it does not, it shouldn't have to be reread.
Do we think it's important that we have a definition for two words, recreation and mandate?
I guess we'll see when we vote on the
Because
motion.
both are in the dictionary.
Do you have something?
I think we're spending a lot of time where we shouldn't be spending any time. I'll turn this off.
Because basically, we are in a position where Councillor Greenlaw could do the third and final reading of that bylaw tonight to get that off her plate, because she has a big plate. So if the recommendations from PAC is what holding it up, you have the opportunity to admit those two recommendations. Do not accept the definition of recreation, and do not accept the wording for mandate, and vote on them as they were read originally, before the PAC's recommendations. You can choose not to use their recommendations.
Okay, so just Councillor Greenlaw?
That needs a motion to amend, to not take them.
Right now we have a motion on the table. I think I've got this. That we accept the adjustments from the recommendations from the PAC. We have a motion on the floor to accept the adjustments from the recommendations of the PAC. It's the motion that's in the agenda. So we're going to vote on that motion. If it passes, then we will make those adjustments to the bylaw for the third reading at the May meeting, is my understanding what will happen from there. Is that as clear as mud for everybody else?
Yep.
Okay. As long as we're all confused together, it's good. So,
If we vote this motion down, then we can proceed directly to third reading.
That was what my question was.
okay. We're clear? Good. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion defeated.
Did we ask for a second?
It was already seconded by Councillor Layton. We untabled the motion. Okay. I have to say I'm completely confused, so that's good. I hope everybody else is too. So we're going to do the third reading of bylaw 5422 and 5422 and 5522. And you can read those by title only. Yep.
Bylaw 54-22, the recreation bylaw. And the code of conduct of bylaw 55-22.
I think you have to read them separately, and then we have a motion to accept.
Sorry.
Yep.
So bylaw 54-22, the recreation bylaw.
Do we have a motion to accept the bylaw?
I move that we accept the third reading of bylaw 5422 and that it be enacted.
You heard the motion by Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Boyd. Question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Councillor Greenlaw?
All right. Bylaw 55-22, code of conduct bylaw.
I need a motion to accept, please. Anyone?
I'll make that motion that we accept it.
You heard the motion by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question?
Question?
Yes.
Councillor Greenlaw, I gave you 2 or 3 small comments on the code. Were those entertained?
They were.
And are they excluded?
No,
They
they
were-
were not. There were a couple of them that were going to be put in.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Yay. That does deserve a clap.
Madam Mayor, do we have an idea of how long before those will be live on our website so people can see how we're supposed to be acting, et cetera?
I think based on this meeting, we want to keep them off the website just as long as possible. I'm not sure how long it takes after that is done, but I would assume by the next meeting they will be up. And we can put a notice up on our Facebook page once they are live up on the website so people know.
Do we currently have a website?
We do.
It's still sort of operational? Okay, yeah.
Very basic. It's got enough on there.
17.1, approval to pay the following invoices from the general operating fund. Oh.
We have a 5622.
Oh, we do? Okay. Right.
Can we do that without it being an addition?
I think because we talked about it up front. Okay, so 5622, because we brought that forward from old business, so we moved it up to 16. And I think, Councillor Russell, this is one you were going to declare conflict on again.
Oh, is that me again?
Yep.
Okay.
Not to tell you what to do, but
No, I don't mind being told what to do. From the overlist. I'll go this way this time. Okay.
all right, Councillor Greenlaw.
Okay, so I'm reading the bylaw rezoning.
Yep.
The bylaw to amend, bylaw number 5219, the rural plan bylaw. Whereas the council of the village of Brampton deems it desirable to amend bylaw number 52-19 as herein provided. The Village of Bremen and Rural Plan bylaw number 5219 is amended by revising the use designations delineated on the Graminan Rural Plan zoning map, constituting Schedule A to the Village of Graminan Rural Plan bylaw number 52-19. A copy is attached, which is attached hereto as Schedule 1, with a larger scale map of the portion being amended hereto, attached hereto as Schedule 2, by changing the land designation from rural to industrial of the lands designated on the Schedule 1 and 2 of this bylaw and which form part hereof. The land for which the use designation is being changed is shown on the Service New Brunswick Digital Property Mapping System Planet as PID 01279967, attached hereto as Schedule 2. 3, notwithstanding the provisions of Section 79 of the Community Planning Act, the use of the land shown on Schedule 1 shall be for industrial use only.
So that was the first reading of bylaw number 5622. And I believe we have to have a motion to accept the first reading. Did I get that correct? Correct.
I'll make a motion to accept the first reading.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Second
So
reading?
I'll read again,
You just have to do the title, though.
just the title this time. Bylaw number 56-22. The bylaw to amend bylaw number 52-19, the rural plan bylaw.
Do I have a motion to accept the second reading?
I will make a motion to accept the second reading.
Heard the motion by Councillor Toll. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
In this reading, it refers to Schedule 1, Schedule 2, and mapping and all that. Is that available to us now?
It is. The development officer has copies of that. I can get it digitally to send out.
Yeah, it'd just be nice to see that type of stuff so we know what we're talking about. Might know what we're talking about, excuse me.
So if it's the wish of council at this point, I would recommend, if we want to have the second public hearing, Wednesday, April the 13th would be a good day. It's a day the development officer is here, and that also gives us enough time from that date before the May meeting to allow for anyone that has any issues or concerns to come forward to express those concerns. So at that meeting, we can have a copy of the proposed bylaw and the zoning maps made available for everyone that may come in to view it.
And this is going to be advertised on the,
And we will also put this out on the Facebook page and everywhere else that we can think to put it, to try to get as many people informed as we can.
So is the intent for this to be a middle-of-the-day meeting again, or is it going to be an evening meeting so people that work for a living might be able to be there?
It's whatever council wishes. Someone wants to make a recommendation.
I would make a recommendation that we have it in the evening.
Yeah.
Does that change our issue with having the development officer here, though?
That's not a problem.
So okay. We'll plan on April 13th then. Why don't we say from 6 to 8 p.m.? Or do we usually do an hour or 2 hours?
The last one was an hour. It's completely up to what the group feels. We can do it right here in the council room.
If nobody shows up, I'm thinking 2 hours is a long time to sit here. So why don't we say between 7 and 8? And then if there's a crowd, we can always stay later.
And maybe people should know that just because it's been read a couple of times, it's not a done deal type of, that this meeting would, if people have concerns and everything, that they'll be heard and it's not too late type of deal. So,
Absolutely. Nothing's final until the third reading.
right.
Okay. So we'll plan on April 13th, 7 o'clock for a public meeting, and we should get Councillor Russell.
Where's that chocolate?
Oh. All right. So, item number 17, approval to pay the following invoices. 17-1 from the General Operating Fund, Brunswick Engineering for the airport expansion, $20,467.62. Dillon Consulting for the rural plan, $9,143.65. Dillon Consulting for the rural plan, $4,025. Dutchman Contracting for the Dark Harbor Wharf, $2,271.25. And Practical HR Solutions for CAO hiring for $5,432.60.
I'd make a motion that we would pay these invoices that you mentioned for the general operating fund.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 17-2 from the General Capital Fund, Eastern Compactor Services Limited. It's a transfer station baler, $18,975.
I'd make a motion that we pay this invoice out of the general capital fund.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Boyd. Question? I will say, if you haven't been up to the transfer station, they're very excited about it up there.
And the new door.
And it's, all those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 18-1 is a motion to transfer $17,207.10 from the gas tax fund to the general capital fund, which I'm assuming that that's the amount less HST for the baler.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a gas tax project.
Baler.
I'll make the motion.
You heard the motion from Councillor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 18.2 is a motion to transfer $11,941.75 from the general operating reserve to the general operating fund. And that is,
For the Dillon Consulting bills, less HST.
perfect. Do I have a,
Excuse me. I move that we transfer $11,941.75 from the general operating reserve fund to the general operating fund.
you heard the motion from Counselor Green. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Russell. Question?
Is that mostly paid up now?
We will be, yeah, we got $5,000 left. We're almost done.
We're almost done money. I'm not sure we're almost done the project. That's another
Yeah,
story
that's a bad
altogether.
thing.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. So next is 19, which is closed session. 19.1 is financial, the trash receptacle tender. 19.2 is the North Head Cemetery mowing tender. And 19.3 is property for the Scotiabank building. Do I have a motion to go to closed session?
I'll make the motion.
You heard the motion by Counselor Toll, seconded by Counselor Boyd. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
I'll follow Alyssa to the Easter eggs.
Oh,
You know that's when she's
Hey.
gone.
I'll give you $1 to bring one back.
I'm out for the first two.
We'll call the meeting back to order from closed session. The first thing that we discussed was 19.1, the trash receptacle tender.
I move that we had 4 tenders. I move that we accept the low tender of Charles Morgan for $5,500 for the season.
You heard the motion by Counselor Green. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 19.2 is financial, North Head Cemetery mowing tender.
I thought that was you. No?
I make a motion that we accept the low tender for the North Head Cemetery mowing.
You heard the motion by Counselor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Toll. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. And 19.3 was a property issue.
I make a motion that the village investigate a potential property procurement by doing a property inspection and hire services as required.
You heard the motion by Counselor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
A second.
Seconded by Counselor Brown. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Our next regular council meeting will be May 2nd at 7:30 PM here at the Community Center, COVID permitting. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned.